Good morning. You're listening to Short Stories with Miss Sam, brought to you by the Hotchkiss Library of Sharon and Robin Hood Radio. Tune in every week on Sunday at 8:30 a.m. to WHDD 91.9 FM to catch our show. My name is Miss Sam. I'm the children's librarian at Hotchkiss Library of Sharon. We have all sorts of wonderful books there for children of all ages, and a lovely virtual crafting and story times besides. You can find information on all events we hold for children and adults alike on our website, hotchkisslibraryofsharon.org, or on our Facebook page, facebook.com/hotchkisslibrary. We are open by appointment for browsing and borrowing and computer use every day of the week. This morning, I'm here to tell you a short story about a boy who likes to experiment in the kitchen. I have a warning for you, though, children. You mustn't attempt to do anything like this boy does in the story. Like in George's Marvelous Medicine by the famous Roald Dahl, this fellow uses household items to cook up some strange brew. In both stories, such a mixture has a fantastic and bizarre result. In real life, however, be warned, such a concoction would surely land you in the hospital very sick and may even be deadly. So, keeping in mind that we won't be trying this at home, let's read People's Soup by Alan Arkin, as it appeared in Galaxy Magazine, November 1958. When you took potluck with this kitchen, scientists, not even the poor pot was lucky. Bonnie came home from school and found her brother in the kitchen, doing something important at the sink. She knew it was important because he was making a mess and talking to himself. The sink drain was loaded down with open soda bottles, a sack of flour, cornmeal, dog biscuits, molasses, bromo seltzer, a tin of sardines, and a box of soap chips. The floor was covered with drippings, and every cupboard in the kitchen was open. At the moment, Bonnie's brother was putting all his energy into shaking a plastic juicer that was half filled with an ominous-looking frothy mixture. Bonnie waited for a moment, keeping well out of range, and then said, "Hi, Bob." "'Lo," he answered, without looking up. "Where's Mom?" "Shopping." Bonnie inched a little closer. "What are you doing, Bob?" she asked. "Nothing." "Can I watch?" "No." Bonnie took this as a cue to advance 2 cautious steps. She knew from experience how close she could approach her brother when he was being creative and still maintain a peaceful neutrality. Bob slopped a cupful of ketchup into the juicer, added a can of powdered mustard, a drop of milk, 6 aspirin, and a piece of chewing gum, being careful to spill a part of each package used. Bonnie moved in a bit closer. "Are you making another experiment?" she asked. "Who wants to know?" Bob answered, in his mad scientist voice, as he swaggered over to the refrigerator and took out an egg, some old bacon fat, a capsuled vitamin pill, yesterday's Jell-O, and a bottle of clam juice. "Me wants to know," said Bonnie, picking up an apple that had rolled out of the refrigerator and fallen on the floor. "Why should I tell you?" "I have a quarter." "Where'd you get it?" "Mom gave it to me." "If you give it to me, I'll tell you what I'm doing." "It's not worth it." "I'll let you be my assistant, too." "Still not worth it." "For 10 cents?" "Okay, 10 cents." She counted out the money to her brother and put on an apron. "What should I do now, Bob?" "Get the salt," Bob instructed. He poured sardine oil from the can into the juicer, being very careful not to let the sardines fall in. When he had squeezed the last drop of oil out of the can, he ate all the sardines and tossed the can into the sink. Bonnie went after the salt, and, when she lifted out the box, she found a package containing 2 chocolate graham crackers. "Mom has a new hiding place, Bob," she announced. Bob looked up. "Where is it?" "Behind the salt." "What did you find there?" 2 chocolate grahams. Bobby held out his hand, accepted one of the crackers without thanks, and proceeded to crumble the whole thing into his concoction, not even stopping to lick the chocolate off of his hands. Bonnie frowned in disbelief. She had never seen such self-sacrifice. The act made her aware, for the first time, of the immense significance of this experiment. She dropped her quirl completely and walked over to the sink to get a good look at what was being done. All she saw in the sink was a wadded wet cornflake box, the empty sardine tin, and spillings from the juicer, which by this time was beginning to take on a distinctive and unpleasant odor. Bob gave Bonnie the job of adding 7 pinches of salt and some cocoa to the concoction. "What's it going to be, Bob?" she asked, blending the cocoa on her hands into her yellow corduroy skirt. "Stuff," Bob answered, unbending a little. "Government stuff?" "Nope." "Spaceship stuff?" "Nope." "Medicine?" "Nope." "I give up." "It's animal serum," Bob said, sliced his thumb on the sardine can, glanced unemotionally at the cut, ignored it. "What's animal serum, Bob?" "It's certain properties without which the universe in eternity regards for human beings." "Oh," Bonnie said. She took off her apron and sat down at the other end of the kitchen. The smell from the juicer was beginning to reach her stomach. Bobby combed the kitchen for something else to throw into his concoction and came up with some oregano and liquid garlic. "I guess this is about it," he said. He poured the garlic and oregano into his juicer, put the lid on, shook it furiously for a minute, and then emptied the contents into a deep pot. "What are you going to do now, Bob?" Bonnie asked. "You have to cook it for 7 minutes." Bobby lit the stove, put a cover on the pot, set the timer for 10 minutes, and left the room. Bonnie tagged after him, and the two of them got involved in a rough game of basketball in the living room. "Bing!" said the timer. Bob dropped the basketball on Bonnie's head and ran back into the kitchen. "It's all done," he said, and took the cover off the pot. Only his dedication to his work kept him from showing the discomfort he felt with the smell that the pot gave forth. "Phew!" said Bonnie. "What do we do with it now? Throw it out?" "No, stupid. We have a stir till it cools and then drink it." "Drink it?" Bonnie wrinkled her nose. "How come we have to drink it?" Bobby said, "Because that's what you do with experiments, stupid." "But, Bob, it smells like garbage." "Medicine smells worse, and it makes you healthy," Bob said, while stirring the pot with an old wooden spoon. Bonnie held her nose, stood on tiptoe, and looked in at the cooking solution. "Will this make us healthy?" "Maybe." Bob kept stirring. "What will it do?" "You'll see." Bob took 2 clean dish towels, draped them around the pot, and carried it over to the Formica kitchen table. In the process, he managed to dip both towels in the mixture and burn his already sliced thumb. One plastic handle of the pot was still smoldering from being too near the fire, but none of these things seemed to have the slightest effect on him. He put the pot down in the middle of the table and stared at it, chin in hand. Bonnie plopped down opposite him, put her chin in her hands, and asked, "We have to drink that stuff?" "Yup." "Who has to drink it?" "First." Bob made no sign of having heard. "I thought so," said Bonnie. Still no comment. "What if it kills me?" Bobby spoke by raising his whole head and keeping his jaw stationary in his hands. "How can it hurt you? There's nothing but pure food in there." Bonnie also sat and stared. "How much of that stuff do I have to drink?" "Just a little bit. Stick one finger in and lick it off." Bonnie pointed a cautious finger at the tarry-looking brew and slowly immersed it until it barely covered the nail. "Is that enough?" "Plenty," said Bob in a judicious tone. Bonnie took her finger out of the pot and stared at it for a moment. "What if I get sick?" "You can't get sick. There's aspirin and vitamins in it, too." Bonnie sighed and wrinkled her nose. "Well, here it goes," she said. She licked off a little bit. Bob watched her with his television version of a scientific look. "How do you feel?" he inquired. Bonnie answered, "It's not so bad once it goes down. You can taste the chocolate graham cracker." Bonnie was really enjoying the attention. "Hey," she said, "I'm starting to get a funny feeling in my—" And before she could finish the sentence, there was a loud pop. Bob's face registered extreme disappointment. She sat quite still for a moment and then said, "What happened?" "You've turned into a chicken." The little bird lifted its wings and looked down at itself. "How come I'm a chicken, Bob?" it said, cocking its head to one side and staring at him with its left eye. "Ah, nuts," he explained. "I expected you to be more of a pigeon thing." Bob mulled over the ingredients of his stew to see what went wrong. The chicken hopped around the chair on one leg, flapped its wings experimentally, and found itself on the kitchen table. They walked to the far corner and peered into a small mirror that hung on the side of the sink cabinet. "I'm a pretty ugly chicken, boy," it said. It inspected itself with its other eye, and finding no improvement, walked back to Bobby. "I don't like to be a chicken, Bob," it said. "Why not? What does it feel like?" "It feels skinny, and I can't see so good." "How else does it feel?" "That's all how it feels. Make me stop being it." "First tell me better what it's like." "I told you already. Make me stop being it." "What are you afraid of? Why don't you see what it's like first before you change back? This is a valuable experience." The chicken tried to put its hands on its hips, but it found neither hips nor hands. "You better change me back, boy," it said, and gave Bob the left-eye glare. "Will you stop being stupid and just see what it's like first?" Bob was finding it difficult to understand her lack of curiosity. "Wait till Mom sees what an ugly mess I am, boy. Will you ever get it?" Bonnie was trying very hard to see Bob with both eyes at once, which was impossible. "You're a sissy, Bonnie. You ruined the opportunity of a lifetime. I'm disgusted with you." Bob dipped his forefinger in the serum and held it out toward the chicken. It pecked at what it could from the finger and tilted its head back. In an instant the chicken was gone and Bonnie was back. She climbed down from the table, wiped her eyes, and said, "It's a good thing you fixed me, boy. Would you have ever got it?" "Ah, you're nothing but a sissy," Bob said, and licked off a whole fingerful of his formula. "If I change into a horse, I won't let you ride me, and if I change into a leopard, I'll bite your head off." Once again the loud pop was heard. Bonnie stood up, wide-eyed. "Oh, Bob," she said, "you're beautiful." "What am I?" Bob asked. "You're a beautiful St. Bernard, Bob. Let's go show Melissa and Chuck." "A St. Bernard?" The animal looked disgusted. "I don't want to be no dog. I want to be a leopard." "But you're beautiful, Bob. Go look in the mirror." "Nah." The dog padded over to the table. "What are you going to do, Bob?" "I'm going to try it again." The dog put its front paws on the table, knocked over the serum, and lapped up some as it dripped onto the floor. Pop went the serum, taking effect. Bobby remained on all fours and kept lapping. Pop went the serum again. "What am I now?" he asked. "You're still a St. Bernard," said Bonnie. "The devil with it, then," said the dog. "Let's forget all about it." The dog took one last lap of serum. Pop! Bobby got up from the floor and dejectedly started out the back door. Bonnie skipped after him. "What will we do now, Bob?" she "We'll go down to Thrifty's and get some ice cream." They walked down the hill silently, Bobby brooding over not having been a leopard, and Bonnie wishing that he'd stayed a St. Bernard. As they approached the main street of the small town, Bonnie turned to her brother. "You want to make some more of that stuff tomorrow?" "Not the same stuff," said Bob. "What will we make instead?" "I ain't decided yet." "You want to make an atomic bomb?" "Maybe." "Can we do it in the juicer?" "Sure," Bob said, "only we have to get a couple of onions." The end. Thanks for listening to Short Stories with Mrs. Sam. I hope you're entertained by today's story and that you join me next week. Short Stories with Mrs. Sam is brought to you by the Hotchkiss Library of Sharon and Robin Hood Radio, and can be heard each week on Sunday mornings, 8:30 a.m. here on WHDD 91.9 FM. Our second story today is called The 7-Day Terror by R.A. Lafferty. This is as it appeared in Worlds of Science Fiction in 1962. Things just vanished. It was simple. As a matter of fact, it was child's play. "Is there anything you want to make disappear?" Clarence Willoughby asked his mother. "A sinkful of dishes is all I can think of. How will you do it?" "I just built a disappearer. All you do is cut the other end out of a beer can. Then you take 2 pieces of red cardboard with peepholes in the middle and fit them in the ends. You look through the peephole and blink. Whatever you look at will disappear." "Oh. But I don't know if I can make 'em come back. We'd better try it on something else. Dishes cost money." As always, Myra Willoughby had to admire the wisdom of her 9-year-old son. She would not have had such foresight herself. He always did. You can try it on Blanche Manor's cat outside there. Nobody will care if it disappears except for Blanche Manners. All right. He put the disappearer to his eye and blinked. The cat disappeared from the sidewalk outside. His mother was interested. I wonder how it works. Do you know how it works? Yes. You can take a beer can with both ends cut out and put 2 pieces of cardboard. Then you blink. Never mind. Take it outside and play with it. You hadn't better make anything disappear in here till I think about this. But when he had gone, his mother was oddly disturbed. I wonder if I have such a precocious child. Why, there are lots of grown-up people who wouldn't know how to make a disappearer that would work. I wonder if Blanche Manners will miss her cat very much. Clarence went down to the Plugged Nickel, a pothouse on the corner. Do you have anything you want to make disappear, Nokomis? Only my paunch. If I make it disappear, it'll leave a hole in you and you'll bleed to death. That's right, I would. Why don't you try it on the fire plug outside? In this way, one of the happiest afternoons in the neighborhood. This, in a way, was one of the happiest afternoons in the neighborhood. The children came from blocks around to play in the flooded streets and gutters, and if some of them drowned, and we won't say that they did drown, in the flood, and brother, was it a flood? Why, you'd have to expect things like that. The fire engines, who ever heard of calling fire engines to put out a flood, were apparatus deep in water. The policemen and ambulance men wandered around wet and bewildered. Resuscitator, anybody want a resuscitator? Chanted Clarissa Willoughby. Oh, shut up, said the ambulance attendants. Nicodemus, the barman in the Plugged Nickel, called Clarence outside. I don't believe, just for the moment, I'll tell anyone what happened to that fire plug, he said. I won't tell if you won't tell, said Clarence. Officer Comstock was suspicious. There's only 7 possible explanations. One of the 7 Willoughby kids did it. I don't know. It'll take a bulldozer to do it, and then there'll be something left of the plug. But however they did it, one of them did it. Officer Comstock had a talent for getting near the truth of dark matters. This is why he was walking a beat out here in the boondocks instead of sitting in a chair downtown. Clarissa, said Officer Comstock with a voice like thunder. Resuscitator, anybody want a resuscitator? Chanted Clarissa. Do you know what happened to that fire plug? Asked Officer C. I have an uncanny suspicion. As yet, it is no more than that. When I am better informed, I will advise you. Clarissa was 8 years old, and very much given to uncanny suspicions. Clementine, Harold, Corinne, Jimmy, Cyril, he asked the 5 younger Willoughby children. Do you know what happened to that fire plug? There was a man around yesterday. I bet he took it, said Clementine. I don't even remember a fire plug there. I think you're making a lot of fuss about nothing, said Harold. City Hall is going to hear about this, said Corinne. Pretty doomed, sure, said Jimmy, but I won't tell. Cyril, cried Officer Comstock in a terrible voice. Not a terrifying voice, but a terrible voice. He felt terrible now. Great green bananas, said Cyril. I'm only 3 years old. I don't even know how it's my responsibility. Clarence, said Officer Comstock. Clarence gulped. Do you know where that fire plug went? Clarence brightened. No, sir, I don't know where it went. A bunch of smart Alecs from the water department came out and shut off the water for a few blocks around and put some kind of cap in place of the fire plug. This sure is going to be a funny-sounding report, said one of them. Officer Comstock walked away discouraged. Don't bother me, Miss Manners, he said. I don't know where to look for your cat. I don't know where to look for a fire plug. I have an idea, said Clarissa, that when you find the cat, you'll find the fire plug in the same place. As of yet, it's only an idea. Ozzie Murphy wore a little hat on top of his head. Clarence pointed his weapon and winked. The hat was no longer there, but a little trickle of blood was running down the hat. I don't believe I'd play with that any more, said Nokomis. Who's playing? Said Clarence. This is for real. This was the beginning of the 7-day terror in the heretofore obscure neighborhood. Trees disappeared from parkings, lamp-posts were as though they had never been. Wally Waldorf drove home, got out, slammed the door of his car, and there was no car. As George Mullendorf came up the walk to his house, His dog Pete ran to meet him and took a flying leap into his arms. The dog left the sidewalk, but something happened. The dog was gone, and only a bark lingered for a moment in the puzzled air. But the worst were the fire plugs. The second plug was installed the morning after the disappearance of the first. In 8 minutes it was gone, and the floodwaters returned. Another one was in by 12 o'clock. Within 3 minutes it had vanished. The very next morning, fire plug number 4 was installed. The water commissioner was there. The city engineer was there. The chief of police was there with a riot squad. The president of the Parent-Teachers Association was there. The president of the university was there. The mayor was there. 3 gentlemen of the FBI and a newsreel photographer, eminent scientists, and a crowd of honest citizens. "Let's see it disappear now," said the city engineer. "Let's see it disappear now," said the police chief. "Let's see it It did, didn't it?" said one of the eminent scientists. "And it was gone, and everybody was very wet." "At least I have the picture sequence of the year," said the photographer, but his camera and apparatus disappeared from the midst of them. "Shut off the water and cap it," said the commissioner, "and don't put in another plug yet. That was the last plug in the warehouse." "This is too big for me," said the mayor. "I wonder that Tass doesn't have it yet." "Tass has it," said a little round man. "I am Tass." "If all you gentlemen will come to the Plugged Nickels," said Nicodemus, "and try one of our new fire hydrant highballs, you'll all be happier. These are made of good corn, whiskey, brown sugar, and hydrant water from this very gutter. You can be the first to drink 'em." Business was phenomenal at the Plugged Nickel, for it was in front of its very doors that the fire plugs disappeared in floods of gushing water. "I know a way we can get rich," Clarissa said several days later to her father, Tom Willoughby. "Everybody says they're going to sell their houses for nothing and move out of the neighborhood. Go get a lot of money and buy 'em all. Then you can sell 'em again and get rich. I wouldn't buy them for $1 each. 3 of them have disappeared already, and all the families but us have their furniture moved out in their front yards. There might be nothing but vacant lots in the morning." "Good! Then buy the vacant lots, and you can be ready when the houses come back." "Come back? Are the houses going to come back? Do you know anything about this, young lady?" "I have a suspicion verging on a certainty. As of now, I can say no more." 3 eminent scientists were gathered in an untidy suit that looked as though it belonged to a drunken sultan. "This transcends the metaphysical. It impinges on the quantum continuum. In some ways it obsoletes boff," said Dr. Velkev Vonk. "The contingence on the intransience is the most mystifying aspect," said Arpad Arkabarman. "Yes," said Willie McGilly. "Who would have thought that you could do it with a beer can and 2 pieces of cardboard? When I was a boy, I used an oatmeal box and a red Crayola." "I do not always follow you," said Dr. Vonk. "I wish you would speak plainer." So far, no human had been injured or disappeared, except for the little blood on the pate of Ozzie Murphy, on the lobes of Conchito when her gaudy earrings disappeared from her very ears, a clipped finger or so when a house vanished as the front knob was touched, a lost toe when a neighborhood boy kicked at a can and the can was not. Probably not more than a pint of blood and 3 or 4 ounces of flesh altogether. Now, however, Mr. Buckle, the groceryman, disappeared before witnesses. This was serious. Some mean-looking investigators from downtown came out to the Willoughbys. The meanest-looking one was the mayor. In happier days, he had not been a mean man, but the terror had now reigned for 7 days. "There have been some ugly rumors," said one of the mean investigators, "that link certain events to this household. Do any of you know about them?" "I started most of them," said Clarissa, "but I didn't consider them ugly. Cryptic, rather. But if you want to get to the bottom of this, just ask me a question." "Did you make those things disappear?" asked the investigator. "That isn't the question," said Clarissa. "Do you know where they have gone?" asked the investigator. "That isn't the question either," said Clarissa. "Can you make them come back?" "Why, of course I can. Anybody can, can't you?" "I cannot. If you can, please do so at once." "I need some stuff. Get me a gold watch and a hammer. Then go to the drugstore and get me this list of chemicals. And I need a yard of black velvet and a pound of rock candy." "Shall we?" asked one of the investigators. "Yes," said the mayor. "It's our only hope. Get her anything she wants." And it was all assembled. "Why does she get all the attention?" asked Clarence. "I was the one who made all the things disappear. How does she know how to get them back?" "I knew it!" cried Clarissa. "I knew he was the one who did it. He read in my diary how to make it disappear. If I was his mother, I'd whip him for reading his little sister's diary. That's what happens when things like that fall into irresponsible hands." She poised the hammer over the gold watch of the mayor on the floor. "I have to wait a few seconds. This can't be hurried. It'll only be a little while." The second hand swept around to the point that was preordained for it before the world began. Clarissa suddenly brought down the hammer with all her force on the beautiful gold watch. "That's all," she said. "Your troubles are over. See, there's Blanche Manor's cat on the sidewalk, just where she was 7 days ago." And the cat was back. "Now let's go down to the plugged nickel and watch the fire plug come back." They had only a few minutes to wait. It came out of nowhere and changed into the street like a sign and a witness. "Now I predict," said Clarissa, "that every single object will return exactly 7 days from the time of its disappearance." The 7-day terror had ended. The objects began to reappear. "How?" asked the mayor. "Did you know they'd come back in 7 days?" "Because it was a 7-day disappearer that Clarence made. I also know how to make a 9-day, a 13-day, a 27-day, and an 11-year disappearer. I was going to make a 13-day one, but for that you have to color the ends with the blood of a little boy's heart, and Cyril cried every time I tried to make a good cut." "Do you really know how to make all these?" "Yes, but I shudder if the knowledge should ever come into unauthorized hands." "I shudder too, Clarissa, but tell me, why did you want the chemicals?" "For my chemistry set." "And the black velvet?" "For a doll dress." "And the pound of rock candy?" "How did you ever get to be mayor of this town when you have to ask a question like that? What do you think I wanted the rock candy for?" "One last question," said the mayor. "Why did you smash my gold watch with the hammer?" "Oh," said Clarissa, "that was for dramatic effect." The end. Thank you for listening to Short Stories with Miss Sam. I hope you were entertained by today's story and that you'll join me next week. Short Stories with Miss Sam is brought to you by the Hotchkiss Library of Sharon and Robin Hood Radio, and can be heard each week on Sunday mornings, 8:30 a.m. here on WHDD 90.1 FM.